Tonight, I'm speaking on praying and fasting. Prayer and fasting. So, as most, if you'll be listening to the recording, as most know, Daughters of the King are in a praying and fasting season. As the world is celebrating Ramadan, the Muslims are celebrating Ramadan. We don't fast with them, but we went to a conference service where we were pushed to contend for the faith. And this is our way of contending for the faith, which is praying for the country, praying for the nation, and fasting for the nation. But there's a lot of people who question and who ask about, fasting. What is fasting? What do we do when it comes to fasting? But when I think of fasting, when I was asking the Lord, what do you want me to encourage with tonight, I was led to the story of Esther, to the book of Esther. And many of us, Daughters of the King, because we studied the book of Esther, know what happened as we studied it. But the book of Esther is one of my favorite books. And in the book of Esther, there's a huge known fact that God's name is never directly mentioned in the entire book. His name is not mentioned in the book of Esther. But we see the hand of God in this story, regardless. We see his hand everywhere. It's like now, we don't see God clearly, like we don't see God physically, but he is still moving, he is still working behind the scenes. And the book of Esther, it gives us one of the greatest lessons on prayer and fasting in times of crisis. So Esther, she was a young Jewish woman who became queen in Persia. And there was a man called Haman who plotted to destroy all the Jewish people. And at this time, Esther was the queen, but they did not know that she was a Jewish woman. So when all of this was happening, this man that wanted to destroy, basically to kill all the Jewish people, there was a date that was already set for this genocide, basically, for this killing, destruction. And it caused, obviously, that there's that fear. And many of us may be going through something, maybe not entirely the same, maybe not a genocide, but we may be going through something. Maybe there's a family crisis, maybe you've lost someone, maybe you have a relationship problem. But many times when we're going through problems, we begin to panic. And we see this. We see how this story links to that panic. Now, there was already a date ready for destruction. But Mordecai, who was Esther's, in other versions it says cousins, in other versions it says uncle. But Mordecai told Esther about the decree, about the date set basically for the killing of the Jewish people. And Mordecai said to Esther, he challenged her with a very famous verse, which is found in Esther chapter 4, verse 14. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Mordecai didn't tell her to panic. He says, who knows? Maybe you were made for this time. Maybe you were made for this season. Mordecai didn't shake her and say, oh my gosh, you have to figure something out right now. There wasn't that panic that came with his response, with his information. He didn't tell Esther, you've got to organize a protest right now, you've got to organize this right now. He didn't do that. He spoke to her with purpose. He spoke her purpose, in fact. He said, who knows, this might be the moment. This might be the reason why you were made queen in this place. So when Esther heard of this, she called a fast. So it was a time of fasting. She called for a fast. In Esther chapter 4 verse 16, Esther says, "Go gather all the Jews and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days. My maids and I will fast likewise, and so I will go to the king." So that's why sometimes maybe you've heard of the Esther fast. It comes from this. The Esther fast is 3 days. Now, before she went to the king, she went to God, because Esther, she probably understood that we don't fight spiritual battles with our natural strength. Can you imagine if you're going through spiritual warfare and you're trying to fight with your flesh? You'll lose. But at that time, there was a law that basically said that anyone who approached the king without invitation would basically be killed. So Esther, even though she was the queen, going to see the king without being invited was a dangerous move, right? So Esther even said, she said, if I die, I die. If I perish, I perish. It's in verse 16. She says, if I die, I die. That was her attitude, hearing that this is going to happen to her people. Now, the heart of fasting is total surrender. It's total obedience. Esther didn't fast alone. It says, remember in verse 16, it says, "Go gather all the Jews and fast for me." And her maids were also fasting. So Esther didn't fast alone. She called the community to fast with her. Do you know there is power when God's people come together, when they humble themselves together, when they fast together? Like what we're doing now, right? Maybe not everyone is fasting with us, but there are people, maybe you're just praying with us. But we see the wickedness of the world. People are not taking care of the creation of God. It's like in the time of Noah. We saw God's heartbreak due to the wickedness of the world then, because they were neglecting his creation. And we see a similar pattern now in the world today. The Muslims are celebrating Ramadan, but we stand on the truth and we unite in prayer and fasting. It's like what Esther is doing. The people are about to get killed, and what she does, she doesn't run to panic, she doesn't run to self-solution. She fasts, and she calls people to fast with her, which is like what we are doing now. We are calling people to fast with us. Whether you are fasting with us or just praying with us, we are in unity. We are seeking the Lord together. When we fast and pray, the atmosphere shifts. That's why when people want to hear from the Lord, when there is something that they directly want to hear clearly from the Lord, they will fast. Whether it's fasting from social media, fasting from food, whatever type of fast. Some people, they fast for 3 days without any food, just water. Some people, they fast for 21 days with just veggies. But when we fully surrender to the Lord, when we break our flesh, things shift. Esther and the community, they fasted for 3 days. No food, no distractions. It was just that urgency and that prayer so that the Jewish people would be saved. And after the fast, Esther went in and she spoke to the king. It says that the king extended the golden scepter. We see favor. Favor. What could have ended in death, in danger, it turned into an opportunity. And you see, this is what happens when we pray and when we fast. Now, the decree that was made hadn't changed yet, but Esther already had. She had, because she developed this boldness. She developed this courage. She became courageous. Sometimes the miracles that we are looking for, the miracles that we are praying for, it begins inside you before it happens around you. Just like what I mentioned a few weeks ago or last week about revival. Revival begins with you. We want to see revival in the UK, but you've got to get your heart revived. Revival begins with us, and then it spreads to many. It begins with you. In the entire book of Esther, God's name is never mentioned, as I said earlier. But think about the story if you've read the book of Esther. The right woman became queen. A Jewish woman became queen. The conversations that were happening, it happened at the right time. The king, he couldn't sleep one night. The enemy's strategy or plot, it backfired. Those things are not coincidences. There's no such thing as a coincidence, by the way. When we pray and fast, it positions us to witness the shift, to witness the revival. You know the gallows that Haman built for Mordecai? It became the instrument of his own downfall. So what the enemy planned for destruction became a platform for deliverance. And this is what happens when God is in the story. So God's name might have not been mentioned in the entire book of Esther, but his hand was there. We're all born with a purpose. God has a call for each one of us. Esther didn't ask for that assignment or that mission to go to the king, to fast and go to the king. She was living that quiet life in the palace. But then her purpose arose. Her purpose, it came. And the reason why she became queen became evident. Maybe you're in a season where your responsibility seems heavy, or sometimes even leadership. Maybe you're in leadership and you feel burdened. Maybe you're the oldest daughter or the daughter in the house that does everything. But what if, just what if, you are exactly where you are for such a time as this? What if the breakthrough isn't going to come from stressing or trying to take control, but from total surrender? When we fast, we have to have total surrender. When we fast together, it's powerful. It's not a performance, it's not for show. Esther, she didn't isolate herself. She invited others in. She gathered the community. Even her maids were fasting with her. When families fast together, when churches pray together, when leaders humble themselves together, heaven responds. The Jews were preserved. They were saved from the genocide. All of this because what? A young woman chose to pray and fast instead of panic, instead of trying to take control on her own. We might not see God's name written across our situations, but God is there. He's here. Prayer and fasting doesn't inform God of your problems. He already knows. He's not surprised. But praying and fasting transforms you into a vessel that he can use in the solution. He used Esther as a vessel in the solution for the Jews. Each and every one of us are called for a purpose. And this moment now where we have decided to fast is not by accident. God didn't give the vision for no reason. We're doing this as an act to contend for the faith. Whether you are fasting just for for revival in the UK, or you're fasting for personal reasons, maybe your health, finances, relationships, family, whatever it may be, your fast will precede your favor, your surrender, and the breaking of flesh. It could unlock someone's deliverance. Disobedience to fast could protect a generation from the false religions of this world. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're gathering. That's why we're fasting. God can do so much. Like Esther fasted for what, 3 days? He did something great in just 3 days. In just 3 days of complete consecration and complete surrender. So God can do a lot with one surrendered heart. So while you fast, be encouraged, remembering that God moves behind the scenes. He sees us, He hears us. And for such a time as this, you are here. For such a time as this, if you are someone that feels like you don't have purpose, if you're someone who feels like, I don't understand why I'm here, I don't even understand why I've been saved, God will use you in this time, in this season. Majority of the country, we started yesterday. And then
wait, sorry, Marriage. Is it for all of us, or is it just for the leaders?
towards the King, all of us.
Oh, I thought it was just for the leaders, but the church was like,
Oh no. Nah, it's all of us, innit?
What time to what time?
It's on you, darling. As long as you're praying and reading the word.
I have to start mine tomorrow.
Yeah, that's okay.
Have you got the prayer points? They're in a group chat.
We will fast. We're not fasting for no reason. There's a reason for it. Majority of the country are celebrating. Even people that are not Muslim are supporting it. You know, I was telling the girls yesterday that I went to Leicester Square, and they had decorations, Happy Ramadan, whatever, and I was like, boy. But then it reminded me, it's like what Pastor Philip said, it's that righteous anger, it's that holy anger, it's that you that passion that you just want to share the gospel to these people because they're just living complete lies. So this season of fasting, whether you're fasting for 3 hours, 2 days, 1 day, or a week, or whether you're just fasting from one thing in the next few weeks, let this be a moment where you are completely surrendering to the Lord. Because many people can fast. People can, we've gone through days where we realize, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten all day because we're so distracted. But that's not how we fast. We don't fast and go to bed so that we can get through the fast. We don't just keep ourselves busy so that we can get through the fast. It breaks the point of it. We've got to spend time in the Word while we fast. We've got to pray. And I know some people might be like, but I'm so busy. You can talk to God anywhere, anytime. He knows what's on your mind. He can hear your thoughts. Can't hide anything from Him. So if you want to hear from the Lord, if you want to contend for the faith, you've got to spend time with Him in this fast. Even if you fast for a whole month, but you haven't spent time with Him, you've wasted your time. All of us have been called. All of us are set apart for a reason, so that we can stand for the truth and show people the truth, so that people will know who Jesus is. The UK is not for false religion. It's not for false gods. The UK is for Jesus. And we have been born and placed in this position so that they will know who Jesus is for that exact reason. So don't ever say you have no purpose. Don't ever say God hasn't gifted me. He's called you. You are called, you are set apart. I think it was Zia or Shona last night that said, or was it someone said it, but the Lord qualifies the called. So stop putting yourself down. Completely and fully surrender to Him. That's what we should be doing. That's what we are doing in this fasting and prayer. I'm not concerned how long you fast for. What's important is what you do in that fast. And I know that if we do this right, if we do this properly, if we really seek Him in this time, He'll give us a word. He'll do something. God is always moving. He's always working. So let's continue to seek the Lord, and He will take care of the rest.